Hello, everybody. This is Sophia Mona Lisa of the Golden Ray Center and the Rose Wheel Mystery Skull. Of course, today is June 3rd, the full moon in Sagittarius, and I'm delighted to be here with my dear friend, Karen Fu. Karen is a trained B.E.S.T practitioner. I'll let her tell you what B.E.S.T stands for in just a moment. And she also dabbles in Akashic records as well as numerology to help people understand themselves. And I can tell you, I've experienced both with her, and she's got quite a gift. So Karen, why don't you explain to people what B.E.S.T is?
Well, the acronym stands for Bioenergetic Synchronization Technique, and it's been around for a very long time. And what it essentially does is it restores communication between your muscle skeletal system and the high brain centers, so that the messages are being communicated properly. It works like magic, if you ask me.
It does work like magic. And what's fabulous about it is you can do it with somebody in person. But I live in Florida, you live in California, and you do it with me long distance.
That's right.
And it's very
Yeah.
powerful. So
Thanks for having me here today.
oh, thank you. Well, I asked Karen to join me for this conversation today because we actually started this conversation yesterday, and it was a topic that I was desiring to immerse myself in, related to this full moon in Sagittarius, and specifically related to the recent video that I've put out called Quantum Embodiment Opportunities. And if you haven't seen this video yet, there'll be a link in the description below. I encourage you to do that. And the reason that I'm talking about being able to move through resistance with Karen today is because it's been my experience personally, and it's been her experience personally, that when these big opportunities show up to allow ourselves to stretch into, more of who we are, what happens is that resistance starts to come up within us to tell us that this is not safe for us.
Yeah. No.
Right. So I love this image because you can see, this beautiful little flower found its way up through all of this concrete. Talk about resistance that it had to move through to step into its own greatness. And so we do find that whenever an opportunity presents itself for us to expand who it is that we are in the current moment, that resistance can show up to keep us from stepping into that larger self that is desiring to show up. And so I found this really interesting definition of resistance, which is the artful, insidious feeling that holds us back from doing the things that are meaningful to us. And so, a teacher of mine at one point said to me, there is always a solution, no matter what scenario your mind has created, which is the reason why you can't do this right now. There is a solution. And sometimes the best way to find that solution, if we're kind of fighting ourselves in our own little paper bag, is to talk to somebody else, because they'll be able to see something that we're not able to see in the moment. So some of the things that you want to think about, if you can feel that the resistance is coming up and you're making excuses that sound like justifications for why you can't engage with an opportunity, is to consider, what is it that might be paralyzing your new beginning? What is it that your mind might be desiring to protect you from? In what ways in your life do you play it safe? And how are you shoulding yourself in your life? So these are some things to just keep in mind and touch back into in a contemplative way, not a judgmental or critical way, a contemplative way to open up a part of yourself that is ready to show itself to you. So Karen, we had an interesting discussion that was started yesterday about how we move forward when we are feeling stuck. And I love Martin Luther King Jr. I love a lot of the quotes from him, and this is a great one. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. So
Oh, I love that.
I'm going to stop the share, and I just want us to take a few moments to talk about any specific experiences in your life that are coming to mind where you were aware that the resistance was coming up, what it felt like, and how it is that you were able to move through it.
Sure. We had this nice conversation the other day, and I was sharing with you an experience I had several years ago. I don't really even remember how many years, but I was offered an opportunity to go and learn numerology, as a matter of fact. And I really wanted to go. I was very interested in, curious to know about it because it just felt like a piece of information I was missing that might help me help others and also myself, who I was really needing some help shifting. And so the option was presented to me, and I felt all this resistance. Oh my God, I don't have a passport, can I get a flight this late? I mean, I came up with every justification not to go, but I really wanted to go. So there's this push pull inside of me. And we've talked about this as it relates to what's going on in my actual chart right now.
Right.
That push pull. And that has happened several times in my life. So I finally accepted the offer made to me. I dutifully went and got my passport and got the reservation, and I went and I had the best time ever, made some amazing friends. And, I think looking back now after the fact, I would have really regretted not going.
Right.
And so these opportunities really get you to think about, where are you going in your life? And
Right.
so when you presented this new opportunity coming up in August, I thought, oh, I really want to go. I kind of like to go, but what am I going to do with the cats? What am I going to do with, family situation? And how am I going to be able to manage all of that? And I could just feel my whole insides churning, basically going in circles, making myself dizzy with whatever. And I finally decided, okay, those don't matter. What matters is, do I want to go or not? Am I going to allow this opportunity to pass me by? Or am I going to choose me and what really feels like from a deep place is the right thing for me to do? And so I sent you that text and I said, how can I not come? I have all that Leo energy, that Sagittarius energy, that Medusa stuff going on. I mean, how could I not be there? And then I remembered somebody I know does horse therapy, and I was real attracted to going over there one day, and I just didn't go. I just didn't choose what would really make me happy.
Right.
And so given all the stuff that's been happening in the stars lately, I can't live like that anymore.
Right.
And so working with you has really opened up, what's the saying, the consciousness, these growth opportunities in consciousness have been just happening at a rapid pace since I first connected with you.
Right. Right.
And the session we had about all those fixed planets that I have was very powerful.
Yeah.
And that contributed to being able to make this decision, because you have an amazing way of putting things in a perspective, like reframing.
Right.
That was very helpful.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Welcome.
I've also had my own experiences with resistance, whether it was showing up for a growth opportunity, like a type of a training, but also in what some may call a more mundane way. Resistance shows up wherever it can raise its head. And the most recent experience that I had actually was around my 60th birthday in January. My son had told me that he wanted me to go out to LA and spend my 60th birthday with him. And while I thought, wow, wouldn't that be great? I haven't seen him in a year. It would be so fun. And I love my son. I love being with him. The moment he said he wanted to fly me out there for a week, I could feel the resistance come up. First, it was, oh my God, I can't fly, right? Because we're not that far outside of the big C window where, you gotta wear masks, you gotta show proof of the jab, yada, 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 yada. And I don't care how awake and aware you think you are, that programming is so strong, it seeps through your field and it affects you. And I became aware, afraid of flying because I never once wore a mask. I wasn't going to be forced to wear a mask. I never once got a jab. I didn't want to have to show proof of getting one. And I was really afraid about how the logistics of getting on a plane and flying across the country was going to work for me. And my son travels a lot around the world. And he kept telling me, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You're not going to have to worry about that. But there was this seed that had been planted around the fear of traveling that I was aware of. And so after he's like, oh, don't worry, Mom, it'll be okay. Then it was the pets. Oh my God, what am I going to do with my dog and my cat for a week? I don't have a pet sitter. The last time I went to France and I had a recommendation for a pet sitter from a friend whom I trusted, it was a disaster. It was a complete disaster that resulted in a medical emergency for my dog. I didn't feel safe leaving them with anybody, much less even knowing who to contact to be a pet sitter. But my son called me up and he's like, okay, I bought your ticket for the day. And it's like, okay, I guess I'm going to LA. And I had to move through all of that resistance. And what was miraculous is that very quickly and very easily, I was maneuvered into a space where somebody who I knew, didn't know very well, but knew, turned out she's a pet sitter. She goes all over the country pet sitting for people. And she said she'd pet sit for me. And it was reasonable. It wasn't going to cost me an arm and a leg. So, these things come up, whether you're being given an opportunity to step into some kind of really big shift in terms of your soul growth, or whether it's just something in life that you'd like to be able to do. But you know what? So I don't go this time. I'll go the next time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's amazing to see how the resistance can show up, what forms it takes. I love how you said it was, I don't have a passport. Can I get a flight at this last minute? Me, it was, I don't know if I want to fly after the whole COVID thing. What about the pet sitter thing? For a lot of people, it could be, I can't afford it. Some people, they might be saying to themselves, well, real non-committal, well, okay, sounds good, but let me see what comes up between now and then, as if something bigger and better might show up.
Speaking of can't afford it, that did cross my mind because I think I mentioned, I'm really working at being more responsible and, choosing more wisely how I spend my money. And after I made the commitment, I realized I think I have a bunch of airline miles. I don't think I'm even going to have to pay for a flight. So check that excuse off the list.
That's right.
so so it's like you're saying, once you commit, then all the things in the universe that is there to help you conspire to make it happen for you.
That's the magic, Karen. I couldn't have said it any better, because that's been my experience every time I said yes.
Me too.
Yeah,
Here I was, in the resistance again.
right.
But I'm glad I decided what I
I'm
did. So
glad too. I'm glad too. I can't imagine you not being there.
I
Right.
can't either. I mean, I just it's gonna be fun.
It's going to be great. So let me bring us back to our slides again and talk about now how we can get our energy and our life moving again when we're stuck in that resistance. And of course, if you're watching this, then you know that my way of doing that is looking to the stars, right? So before I look to the stars here, I'm sorry, I'm having problems with my fine motor skills and my mouse. I just want to say that I'm currently taking an apprenticeship course with a herd of wild horses that's all the way up in British Columbia. So of course, it's an online apprenticeship, and I'm working with them through the field. In fact, I actually had them show up for me in the inner realms for something really huge that happened for me. But one of the teachers in the apprenticeship was talking about how in that particular moment, the horses were demonstrating how they clear the field. And she talked about the importance of clearing the field. And she said, clear the field so that it's clean and current. And that's how the magic can run at the highest frequency. And so really, in terms of, moving through resistance, it is really a process of clearing your field, because that resistance is lower frequencies that's kind of creating static in your field and is interfering with your ability to get a clear message around whether or not the opportunity is aligned with your soul's growth and whether or not your heart is actually saying yes to the opportunity. So again, for me, looking to the stars in terms of how I can clear my field for the magic to show up is one of the things that I do. So go ahead.
I think that's what we've done for me too. I mean, I wasn't really looking at it that way, but that's the net effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I took a look at the chart for today's Sagittarius full moon, and there are some powerhouse aspects in the sky. And I didn't know this when I was guided to do a conversation around this topic and to harness these full moon energies for it. But look at what we've got here. We've got the moon at 13 degrees of Sagittarius. In this chart for the full moon, it's in the 11th house. Moon, ruler of Cancer, which is a water element. Water as an element in shamanism is all about clean, clear, current energy. And current is because the water is moving. If the water's current isn't moving, it becomes stagnant. And so this is a way that you can harness the moon's energy in terms of that clean, clear, current energy to clear your field. Sagittarius is your multi-dimensional self, the way you connect with the quantum field. So clearing that out. And of course, when we have a full moon, the sun is standing on the other side of the sky from the moon. So the sun's at 13 Gemini. Well, the Gemini is that lower mind field where all of those thoughts of resistance pop up, right? I don't have a passport. I can't afford it. I don't have a pet sitter. I don't fly, right? All of those thoughts in the lower mind. And so what we see here with the sun being in the 5th house of the chart, it's illuminating the mind. What happens when the sun illuminates the space? All the dross gets burnt off. And now you can create, 5th house, create in a way that allows you to liberate yourself. 11th house. I mean, how much more perfect of an example could this be?
Exactly. Wow.
What's coming up for you around that just the opposition, Karen?
Well, I mean, I had to get creative in order to allow myself to consider the options.
That's right.
And I did, like you said, I reached out and talked about it.
Yeah.
And illuminated those resistance elements.
Right. Right. And when you illuminate the resistance, they disappear because they're just a mirage, aren't they? They're like a phantom.
You know, I was listening to, I don't know if you know who John Newton is, but he does this amazing work. But I heard him say, what if the answer from the universe is always yes? What if? And that really hit me. It's like, well, if it's always yes, then any no is coming from a program that I have within me that's waiting to be transmuted. And so what is that program?
Right.
And I thought, that was really something to get that.
Yes.
At this time here, moon opposite sun, another evidence of that.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. That is very potent.
Yeah.
The what ifs are great. I love what if questions because they're wonderful contemplative questions that open you up to your higher self to allow that wisdom to come through.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 other really super potent aspects in the sky today, and I'm not going to go into them in real depth, but I am going to speak to them, is that there's a grand Earth trine, which is really incredible, especially this Medusa North node. They're at 3 degrees and 30 some seconds 30 some minutes within a couple of minutes of each other. They're practically standing on top of each other, closely conjunct to Jupiter at 4 degrees in Taurus. And so, Medusa has just come back into our field of awareness since the most recent Venus gate activation. And I had a conversation with Carol Billets about her. And she's like, Medusa wants people to know that she's not who they think they are. And I said, I know she's not. So she's really ready to work with people and support them. We've got the cosmic Sophia here in this grand Earth trine, and we've got Sarah, that holy soul aspect of Sophia, which is spiritual community. So we've got the grand Earth trine, we've got a yod. Sarah is also involved in this yod. She's one of the base points. Saturnia and the Magdalene. Saturnia, who is a sovereignty goddess. Magdalene, who is your inner Sophia, another base point. And they are thrusting their energies up here to Mars, the sacred masculine, in the 7th house of relationship. What does this mean? This means come hell or high water, it's time to engage relationship with your inner masculine. So we'll talk about that in a couple of slides. And then this piece, the IC, that's your energetic taproot, closely conjunct Mercury, the cosmic messenger, Uranus, the cosmic liberator, right here at Taurus again, which is all about embodiment in the 4th house. The fourth house ruled by the moon. How do you feel safe? How do you feel secure? How do you feel protected? How do you feel taken care of? And so no better way to start moving through the resistance than using your energetic taproot. And we'll talk about that in a second too.
It's interesting that you bring up the inner masculine. There's a guy by the name of John something, and I cannot remember the name of the book, but the message that I read in there was men are supposed to be the banks of the river, because it's a feminine energy that's fluid and flows, but they're supposed to contain and kind of ebb and flow with that fluidity. And it would be nice if we could get to that place again.
Right. Well, and so in order to see it in our external world, we have to do that within us. And
Right.
that's why I think that this yod with the apex point being Mars in the seventh house is where it's time. It's time now to fully engage your inner masculine in conscious equal partnership, right? That's that seventh house is on that Aries Libra axis where we're having all of these eclipses of conscious equal partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're all being called to do this inner work around the masculine and feminine within ourselves.
Absolutely are. Every person, whether they're a woman, a man, or however they self-identify, has an inner masculine, has an inner feminine. That's exactly right. And the role of the inner masculine is to serve and support the inner feminine. So the fact that this gentleman, John, talks about the inner masculine as being like the banks of a river that contains that current flow of the feminine is a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, it's something that you can actually embody and feel.
Yes.
As an example of,
right.
Instead of overpowering the female, it's holding in service of the inner female.
That's exactly right. That's it. And that's the ancient knowledge, the ancient wisdom that's being brought back to humanity. And so let me go back here to the slides. It's no surprise then that we've got the Magdalene involved at the base point, right? Your inner Sophia consciousness, your inner divine wisdom, bringing that forward for people through that yod. Thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful analogy. That's one I've not heard before, but really appreciate.
You're welcome.
So when we're looking at how do we start to move through resistance and how can we use these aspects in the sky at this full moon in Sagittarius, remember, Medusa is within minutes, like less than the width of a strand of hair to the North Node. The North Node being the evolutionary guidance, right? The GPS for humanity in terms of where they're evolving to. So the first thing to do is to allow Medusa as the goddess of valor to be your ally. And of course, Karen has recently fully embraced her as an archetype, as an energy, as an ally. Is there anything that you're aware of that would like to be witnessed about that new relationship with Medusa?
I'm just really excited to have some allies. Let's put it that way. I knowing this information makes me feel like I'm not alone in this effort to, bring more consciousness and more balance to my inner masculine and feminine.
Right. That's right.
And it's about having the courage to step into all of that. That's what she brings, I think.
You're absolutely right. And thank you for sharing that, because you just took the words out of my mouth. Many people don't recognize what the meaning of valor is, because it's an old-fashioned word. It's not used often in current conversation. But valor is about courage. It's about being bold, right? When you're going to step into your greatness, you've got to be bold and courageous. It's about fearlessness and fortitude. So definitely, you know, inviting Medusa in as an ally when you're coming up against any resistance. She's like one of the perfect divine feminine aspects to support you in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved reading about her story too. It's like,
Yes.
and we came across it in that Waking the Tiger book
Yes. Yes.
initially, and that was like the most significant pages I read. In fact, I shared those pages with a friend. I said, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And then all this Medusa came up in the information that we looked into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mentioned
So,
Pegasus.
and Pegasus, right. So remember, we were looking at, just for the audiences, to have clarity around what we're discussing, we were looking at your chart to find where in your chart it was showing that you are getting stuck, right?
Right.
And you were looking for ways of understanding the stuckness and how to move out of the stuckness.
Exactly.
And of course, the book speaks to Medusa and Pegasus and invoking them as ways to do that. But isn't that stuckness that you asked me to look into for you in your chart, isn't that the same thing as what we're talking about here? When resistance shows up, how do you move through the resistance? How do you get unstuck?
Yeah. There's so many moving parts to all of this. It's hard to even speak them all, but yeah, I really wanted to understand what are all these fixed signs in my chart trying to tell me, and is there a way I can break free?
Yes.
And I'm Leo the lion. I mean, you would think, I think Wizard of Oz, the lion has no courage. I feel like that's how I've been in my life, and yet I've had courageous moments. But Medusa reminded me I need to just use my courage. It's there. I just need to use it.
Right. Right. Very good.
That makes sense, but that's how I'm seeing it.
Well, it's like any kind of a tool, whether it's a shamanic tool or a household tool, right? If you can't get the screwdriver into the wall, then get out the screwdriver and use it, right? If you can't get the nail into the wall, get out the hammer and use it. Doesn't do any good in your toolbox tucked away in the back of the closet, does it?
But I'm also seeing how especially as I've looked further into my chart, it has really illuminated the programs that I have been so, I don't even know what the word is, but I guess tied to, or I've just been blindly living through these programs without any regard to why.
They run us, they unconsciously run us.
And I can't remember a time ever being completely free of any of them. And this time that we're in right now is offering us an opportunity to dissect every freaking program that we've been living and question and choose again something that's more liberating and something that really reflects our inner self, the true nature of ourself.
Right.
We need that.
Yes, and that's why we're harnessing these full moon and Sagittarius energies. Full moon, Sagittarius, 11th house, liberation. The sun in Gemini, 5th house, lower mind, all of the programs, right? The false beliefs, the psyops, the mind control that's running us, being illuminated so that poof, they're cleared out of our field.
Yeah. Yay. Oh, this is fun.
Right, because remember, Sagittarius, where this full moon is all about the truth of who we are.
Yes.
So when you're stepping into your greatness, you're stepping into the truth of who you are, and you're embodying the truth of who you are in such a grand way that who you are as a soul, an extension of source, is then more present on this planet than it's ever been in this lifetime or any other lifetime.
That's right. Pretty exciting.
Pretty exciting. So let's see where we are in our slides. Okay. Here's one of the aspects that you can harness for yourself to help you move through the resistance. That I see, that energetic taproot in those Taurus energies. Taurus is the lowest vibrational frequency of the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And not that that's in any way, to impugn the Taurian energies. What it means is that because it's the lowest frequency of the three earth signs, it's about the earth, right? Going out, standing on the grass kind of thing, burying your bare feet in that beautiful, thick Georgia clay, really getting into the earthiness of yourself, which these vessels, these sacred vessels are. So really grounding yourself into what I call the heart of Gaia is how you can utilize this IC in Taurus, and then with Mercury and Uranus standing like within a degree or two of that energetic taproot, hearing those messages from the earth that are speaking to you, having these aha moments, right, that Uranus brings, is that lightning bolt of how you can be more fully grounded within yourself and how you can then move through the resistance. So utilizing this aspect in the sky today can help you move through there. Is there anything about that you'd like to share, Karen?
Well, since I don't have any earth in my chart, this has been very difficult for me to do. Grounding takes an incredible amount of effort on my part. So I work on it all the time.
So this full moon in Sagittarius will be a perfect opportunity to support you in that practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we can choose to consciously engage with
Yes.
this aspect in the sky. I loved all these roots going down into the earth. That's what we see ourselves doing. We vision the roots coming from us down into the earth.
And I love to garden, so that's a way that I do ground.
Yes. Another beautiful expression of those Taurus energies. Yeah. And then, of course, we've got that incredible grand earth trine. And so those grand earth or grand trines, whether it's earth, water, air, or fire, those grand trines are there to support us, to stabilize us. And so in this particular instance, the more that we can tap into our bodies and feel what's coming up as the resistance. And quite frankly, I'm going to stop the share again and show this book once more. What we've learned in this book is he talks about tapping into what he calls the felt sense. And this is really about, closing your eyes, going into your body and feeling what sensation is showing up. Where is it showing up? And what's fascinating is that process is the foundational piece for the breath work that we're going to be doing in these embodiment opportunities, and down to the very phrase that he wrote, the slower you go, the faster you get there. That's like a mantra that we use in this breath modality. So really feeling into your body and being aware of not only how the resistance is showing up in terms of a sensation and where in your body. But you know, any thought that we have is preceded by a feeling. So making the connection between, I can't find a pet sitter. And
Yeah.
where
Where
is
do you feel
that?
that?
Where is that anxiety, right? Showing up in my body.
Yeah. And yeah, most of us, I think, have a hard time putting well, there's a saying that the body speaks volumes, but we have forgotten the language. And what we're really needing to do is relearn that language
Yes.
by tuning into that felt sense. Because by going there, all the, you know, anxiety and the depression and the panic and all that kind of stuff can be calmed
Yes.
through that breath.
Yes. Through the breath. And this particular breath modality, it's known as alignment. And there's a link on my webpage to the alignment website. This breath modality is what we call a yin modality, getting back to the banks that hold the water, right? That water, that feminine is yin. So this is not at all like other breath styles that are like pranayama, holotropic breath, rebirthing breath, yogic breaths, which are very much yang styles of breath work that can be extremely catalyzing. So the beauty of this work is we're tapping into that felt sense. We're becoming aware of where the resistance is showing up in our body. And by observing it, being aware of it and breathing into it, it lets go in a very gentle way, the yin way. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's see where we are in our slides again. Okay, so you want to utilize that grand earth trine. And then remember, I spoke about the yod with the sacred masculine, Mars at the apex in the 7th house, all about relationship. Embrace your relationship with your inner masculine. That yod means this is the time in humanity's evolution. This is the time in your personal evolution that you must embrace your relationship with your inner masculine. The sacred masculine, from my perspective, has been very patient, very patient, because that energy has been usurped by the dark forces, has been made profane, and has been perverted by the dark forces. And so what we see as patriarchy on the planet is not at all sacred masculine. It's time to embrace your inner masculine and allow him to show you what it's like to be in relationship with sacred masculine and not patriarchal energy that is profane masculine energy that dominates and controls and manipulates. So this could be a huge source of resistance for people.
Yeah.
Be aware of that.
Well, it's change. Who likes change? But change is necessary.
That's right. And think about all of the people on the planet that don't feel safe with masculine energy, which is really patriarchal energy. And so they have to have that breakthrough in the belief system, right? Full moon in Sagittarius, and Gemini, the breakthrough of that mind around the belief systems of what is masculine and how can I be in relationship with the masculine energy in a way that I'm not being wounded, I'm not being taken advantage of, I'm not being stolen from, I'm not being abandoned or, God forbid, murdered, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of baggage that could come up and create resistance with why, if you're being called to embrace your relationship with your inner masculine, that knowing the lower mind knows, oh, if she goes to that event to step into her greatness, she's going to be pushed into that relationship, and I have to protect her from that.
Thanks for the warning.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Listen, I've got my own challenges with that as well. I've had some breakthroughs recently, and I feel like a newbie with my swimmers still on, you know?
Yeah. Well, it may be challenging at times, but the reward is great.
The reward is great. And that's when we can call on our ally, Medusa, that goddess of valor, where she can prop us up in our courage and prop us up in our fearlessness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. All right. If for any reason those aspects in the sky and the ways I recommended that you can choose to engage with them simply don't work for you, or you don't feel comfortable for you, then you can always just choose to breathe. When you focus on your breath, you can allow the breath to be your anchor. And I would even encourage you, Karen, and anybody watching, just pay attention when you're walking through your house from the couch to the kitchen, or when you're driving in your car. Pay attention to how often you find yourself holding your breath.
Yeah.
And when you become aware that you're holding your breath, choose to take 3 deep inhales, and then allow yourself to continue choosing the breath.
What I'm aware of is when you're talking about do you hold your breath, I'm noticing that my teeth feel tight. It's like I'm gritting my teeth.
Right.
Although I'm not doing that, but I could feel the, tightness there.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Another thing to pay attention to.
Another thing to pay attention to. And when we do the breath work and we're looking for places that are desiring to soften and relax and unwind, one of the major areas that people have challenges with is in their jaw lines and in their neck. There's so much constriction, those very subtle, very tiny muscles, very subtle muscles, that to allow that to soften and unwind.
Yep.
How much just focusing here and allowing it to soften while you breathe clears out so much resistance. And this is the thing that people have to remember. The universe abhors a void. It has to fill it with something. And so when you're breathing and you're letting these tight muscles relax and unwind, and you're letting go of that tension, what happens is it's creating a void. And then the breath fills that void with divine love, divine intelligence. The divine intelligence in the breath knows exactly where to go in your body and to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of.
Cool.
So this is something that you can already start practicing now until we gather in August.
Yeah. Well, I've been noticing a lot of that because, as you know, I injured my foot, and I've been finding myself sort of bracing. Like when I'm walking, I'm being extra careful and don't want to put too much pressure. What if something happens? And And so I find myself tensing up in this area sometimes. And so I have to consciously think, okay, relax.
Right.
I can relax. I can relax. Everything's okay.
Right. One of the best ways to relax your jaw is through a yawn. A yawn. Oh,
Yeah.
so much letting go.
Very good.
Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah. So here we go. Let the breath be your anchor. If any of those other suggestions don't resonate with you, that's fine. They're just recommendations. The breath is always there for you. So I would really love for you to go to my website, goldenraycenter.com, click on the drop down arrow next to Galactic New Earth Project, and click on the quantum embodiment opportunities. There's actually 3 opportunities. Karen and I have been talking about the week in August. If you're not able to come spend a week with us in August, I have 2 weekends in July. And if you're not able to come for one of the July weekends, then I have a virtual option as well. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you to Karen for being my special guest.
Thanks for having me, Sophia. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And for everybody else that's been with us through this conversation, thank you as well. Going to invite you to subscribe to my channel, The Rosewheel Mystery School, if you haven't done so yet. And give this video a thumbs up so it'll get out there to other people. And if you need to ask me anything about the opportunities in July and August, you can email me here. Now, what I will tell you, let me just go back to the previous page. Forgot to mention this. Since I first posted these pages, I've had all kinds of conversations with people that have shared different things with me. So there's a lot more information on these pages if you've already been to them. I've got a lot more information about the breath modality on the pages. I've got testimonials from clients that I've worked with through this breath modality. And there's even a link to another page, which is my story, my experience with the breath. So even if you've already looked at these pages, I encourage you to go back and check them out again. I do have payment plans available. If the payment plans are not something you can work with, but you know you need to be at one of the events, please email me here at sophiamonalisa79@gmail.com. Remember, Sophia is with an F. And let's try to find that solution for you, that win-win. So once again, Karen, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you, Sophia. My pleasure.